today involves what we call roots and powers. Root and other powers. Root itself is a power, but it's just a power of reciprocal. Square root means power of 1/2. Cube root means power of 1/3. Fourth root means power of 1/4. So we have to take these following examples. Solve these equations. Number 1. So the first equation we are solving is if you have x squared equal to 16, then 2. Cube root of y equals to 3.
God.
So we take this quickly.
I'm done.
All right, very good. Let's take our solution. Let's have a solution down here.
Okay.
So for the first one, anytime you have square to move away, what you have for the first one is you have x squared equals to 16. You know that when you are solving equation, hello, I want you to pay attention, please. Listen.
I am.
When you are solving an equation like this, solving equation entails finding the value of unknown, getting the value for this x, letter x. And if you look at that x you want to get value for, you want only that letter to remain. You want that letter, you want to isolate that letter such that any other thing around the letter will be moved away. But if you look at the letter we have here, the only challenge it has is this power. Yes or no?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So if you want to remove power 2 there, you now use the opposite of power 2 that we call square. The opposite of square is square root. Opposite or inverse of square. Inverse of square is square root. Square root. So if I ask you, if you want to remove square, you will tell me that take square root of both sides. Take square root of both sides. And when you take square root of both sides, once you have square here, that square will help you cancel this. Once you have square roots here, since this one is square, it's square root you introduce there. Once you have square roots here, it will help you take care of this square. And since you are doing it on both sides, the one here will cancel out. You have x left. You now have square root on the right alone. Or simply see it as if you move this square to the other side, it becomes square root. Do you get? Just see it as such. I move this square to the other side, becomes square root. It will change to the opposite. Just like, suppose what you have is x negative 2 equals to 16. If you move this negative 2 to the other side, when you collect like term, it becomes x equals 16 plus 2. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So since this one is not just, since what you have there, it's not just this, it's not like this negative 2. It's power. This one is power now. It's not coefficient, it's not a term, so it's power. If you remove power 2, it change to opposite of that. Power 2 is square. It will change to inverse of square, which is square root. Is it clear? And since you know it's square root, it will change into, you will tell me, take square root. Take square root. You take opposite of this. Take square root of both sides. So we have take square root of both sides. Taking square root of both sides means this x squared that you have here equals to 16. Take the square root on the left and take the square root on the right, so that that square root will help you cancel square root away. So you are now left with x. Square root and square will cancel each other. So x equals to square root of 16. In some other working, we may not need to show square root on both sides like this. Since we know we are taking square root of both sides, and we know square root and square will take care of each other. So we may simply write x equals to, then this one, we have square root of 16. And from there, you will now say, finally, x equals to, what is square root of 16? What is the square root of 16? What do we mean when we say square root of 16? The numbers that multiply each other. I mean, the number that multiplies itself to give 16 is what? A particular number multiplies itself to give 16. What is that number? That's square root of 16.
Is it 8?
If you say 8 times 8 is 64, it doesn't give 16. So what number multiplies itself to give 16?
2 times 8.
No, the same number. That number must multiply itself. It's either you say 2 times 2, or you say 8 times 8, or you say 7 times 7. That number must multiply itself to give 16. What number is that?
It could be 4.
That is 4. So square root of 16 is 4. Because 4 times 4 is what gives 16. Please don't forget. Once you try number out, 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. What is 5 times 5?
25.
What is 6 times 6?
26.
7 times 7?
7 times 7
is 49. Is 49. So 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 9 is 81. Then 10 times 10 is 100. 100. So 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 12 is 144. At least if you know it up to that place, others you can just try and work it out, check it out if the answer is right or not. Like 13 times 13 now to give you 169 and so on. So we have x to be 4. Are you done writing here?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we want to quickly do the second question there. Let's solve it. The second question requires that we solve this thing like roots. This one is called square root of y. Square root. We call this one square root. That means there is invisible. Are you listening? There is invisible 2 at the back of this sign, at the back of this root. There's invisible 2 there. That is why we call it square root. But if it is not 2 that is there, if it is 3, this thing becomes cube root. Cube root. Cube root. Is that clear? So we have cube root of y equals to 3. So the opposite of cube root, if you want to remove this cube root so that you have y left, because you want to solve this, that is finding the value for y, and it's only y that we need there. So what you do is that you take, it's either you say cube both sides, cube both sides, or you say take the cubes of both sides. Take the cubes of both sides. So either way, if you want to do that, I told us, if you want to do that, once you remove cube root to the other side, it becomes the opposite, which is cube. If you remove cube to the other side, it becomes cube root. If you remove square to the other side, it becomes square root. If you remove square root to the other side, it becomes square. I will still ask you all this. Are you listening?
Yes.
If you remove cube root to the other side, it becomes what?
If you will, it becomes square.
It becomes cube. Very good. And if it is cube root, you remove to the other side, it becomes, if you remove cube root to the other side, it becomes cube. And if it is cube, you remove to the other side, what does it become? They change to each other. If it is cube that you remove to the other side, it becomes cube root. If you remove cube root to the other side, it becomes cube.
Oh, okay.
Do you get that?
Oh, yes.
If you remove square to the other side, it becomes
cube.
Square. Square. What's the inverse of square? What's the opposite of square?
Square root.
Exactly. If you remove square to the other side, it becomes square root. That's what we did in example 1. This square, you remove it to the other side, it becomes square root of 16. But if it is square root that you remove from x to the other side, it will become square when it gets to where it's going. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So instead of writing this one as saying you write cube root, you put y equals to 3, and you now say you square both sides, because that's what, you keep both sides like this. So we don't want to write that. We just say straight away that if I remove cube root to the other side, if I remove this cube root to the other side so that y alone can stay, that cube root becomes cube on the other side. Cube means power 3. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So finally, y becomes, what is y? What is 3 cube? What does 3 cube mean? 3 cube means What is 3 square? 3 square means 3 to multiply itself 2 times. 3 times 2. What is now 3 cube?
Oh, so that means 3 cube equals 27.
27. That is 3 multiplying itself 3 times. So your answer is 27. Note that 3 cube implies 3 multiplying itself 3 times, which is 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So